Hi there. I'm Skaji. I'm a practicing witch and a professional tarot nerd. And today I'm a storyteller. I'm so glad you're here. Spooky season is upon us again, and this is another in a series of tales I'm calling the 13 Days of Halloween. And every one of these stories is true, even if it didn't happen. Now, in the early 20th century, you could say there was a health craze passing through the country. And there was a whole lot of what we might call health tourism today, but folks would go to places that supposedly had healthy benefits, hot springs and mineral springs, and in the county there were some mineral springs, and the Mineral Springs Hotel and Resort was built there to take advantage of this tourism and this travel. Now, when I was a kid, those springs were still there, and you could get to them, and I spent some time hanging out in those mineral springs, and really all that I got was wet. But maybe they had some health benefits, and I just didn't realize it. Now, the hotel did well for a while, but in 1932, what with the Great Depression and the decrease in tourism at the time, they converted that hotel into a sanitarium. Sanitarium is a kind of hospital. And it was in operation as a hospital until 1966, when there was a fire, and they just never reopened it. There were better, newer hospitals that were not too far away. They really didn't need this place anymore, I guess. Now, it wasn't long, they say, after it became a hospital that the stories of strange happenings began. They'd say that a lady in white would appear in the hallways or in some of the rooms, and they'd hear strange sounds, and sometimes they'd hear a woman screaming. Now, some folks had said she'd been a patient at that hospital. Others said that she'd been a guest in the hotel, but no one really seemed to know what was going on or what had happened to her, or why her ghost might be there. Now, I didn't put much stock in these stories until a buddy of mine told me he went out there one night. Went out there one night with some friends, and he said he saw that lady in white in the hallway on the 3rd floor. Now, he also admitted that when they saw this ghostly apparition, they all kind of got scared and ran away. Well, I still wasn't sure I believed him, but thought it might be interesting to go out there and take a look for myself and see what I could see. Now, it was early November. It was chilly when I decided to head out that way. There was a full moon that evening. As I got there, drove down that little dirt road that led up to the place, and encountered the chain link fence with the big gate that I'd been told was there, and pulled off to the side of the road and grabbed my handy knapsack and my trusty flashlight and thought I'd set out. Now, he had told me that fence didn't go all the way around. I guess the county didn't figure they needed to do more than block that old road. So I started walking up that fence and to go around, and as I was getting there, I felt something tugging. It was tugging on my back, pulling on me, and my heart started to beat a little bit until I realized I'd caught myself on a tree branch. I was able to get myself loose, and I went around the fence, and I got back on that old dirt road, and it was a beautiful night. That moon lit that road almost like daylight. And as I looked up as I walked, I saw lights streaking through the sky. I remembered that this time of year there was what we'd call the Leonid meteor shower. Some years it was more than others, and I remembered that there's an old song, Stars Fell on Alabama. It was based on a particularly impressive display of the Leonids. I remembered some of the lyrics. Let's see if I can remember them now. I can't forget the glamour. Your eyes held a tender light, and stars fell on Alabama last night. I never planned in my imagination a situation so heavenly, a fairyland where no one else could enter, and in the center, just you and me, dear. My heart beat like a hammer. My arms wound round you tight. Louis Armstrong and Ella Fitzgerald did a good version of that. I really enjoy it. As I came down that road, I got a glimpse. Came around the corner of this building. It was 3 stories. It was built in a grand style. It had a porch on the first floor that went all the way around. There were these columns that came up, and you could tell that even though it had aged, it had once been a beautiful white, but now the paint was faded and chipped. And I guess the county had come along and they'd put plywood up over all the doors and windows on the ground floor, I guess to keep adventuresome youths out. But my buddy had said that if you go around to the back, there was a place where the plywood was loose and you could get in. So I made my way around that building, shining my flashlight. It was very, very dark there. But I got to the back, and I found the place just where he said I'd find it, and pulled that plywood back and managed to wiggle my way through. As I was crawling through, an old knapsack got hung on the window frame, and I jerked to pull myself loose. When I did, I fell right into the floor, and I was glad nobody was there to see me. When I stood up and I shined my light around, I could see that I was in what would have once been a big kitchen. There was evidence of a fire. You could see the smoke, the soot stains on the walls, and some of the timbers were still burned, and it looked like a lot of the equipment had been removed, but it was an old kitchen. And now he had said, 3rd floor, so I thought I'd make my way down the hall. I found the hallway out, and I was walking down, and I heard what sounded like footsteps. Or maybe it was just regular old building sounds, with the building settling in the night. As I passed down that hallway, you could still see damage from the fire. Passed by what must have been sort of the administrative offices. They'd said all the records had been burned and destroyed in that fire, but I don't know how a fire like that didn't burn the whole place down. But here and there you could still see where it had once been this grand old hotel. I made it down that hallway and found the stairway up. And I went up that stairway, and I was being careful, because nobody wants to fall through the stairs. And they creaked. And I heard other sounds. It sounded like footsteps. Our old building sounds. And I made my way all the way up to the 3rd floor. And this hallway was largely intact. And still seemed like it would have seemed when the hospital closed. I was walking down the hall. Thought I saw a glow a little further on the way down there, and as I shined my light, I saw a woman standing there. She was dressed in white, all right, but she was dressed in one of those flapper dresses from the 20s with the little hat, and she was just standing there, just looking at me. She had a sort of sad expression on her face. And after she looked at me for a little bit, she turned and she walked right through the door into one of the rooms. And I thought I might ought to follow and see what was happening. So I carefully headed down that hallway. Pushed that door open. Entered that room. There she was, standing over by one of those boarded up windows, just looking out. And walked into that room. Strangest thing. The place changed. Quick as lightning, I wasn't standing in a darkened, old, abandoned room anymore. I was standing in a nicely lit and well-appointed hotel room. And there was that lady in white, just standing there at the window looking out. That window was open. I could even feel a breeze coming through. It was about that time I heard an angry voice behind me. From the door into that room, the man's voice. I turned to see this man with this angry expression on his face. I couldn't tell what he was saying, but I could tell he was mad about something. And he was shaking his finger. I could hear behind me. I could hear a frightened woman's voice. And she was saying, Robert, you don't understand. It's not like that. You don't understand. And he yelled some more, and I never understood what he was saying. But he rushed forward, quick as a cat, and he pushed me down out of the way. I fell over a small table, and end table there at the couch, I guess, and there I was on my tail watching this man. And she was hollering, Robert, no, when he pushed her out that open window. And I heard her scream. And then stop. And there was that man standing there with his hands on the windowsill, looking out that window and down. And this was the first things he said that I understood. He just kept saying, no, no, almost regretful, no. And he slowly faded away. The lights in that room dimmed, and Once again, I was in that old abandoned building, sitting there on my tail on the floor. Now, I sat there for a while, confused, startled. After I left there, I went to the library and I tried to find anything I could about a murder in that hotel. And I never did find anything. I figured just maybe what that lady in white wanted was to be remembered. Well, years later, they finally demolished that old building after another fire happened. And I still wonder if that lady in white ever found any peace. Well, I want to thank you for spending some of your time with me today. I hope you've enjoyed this story about the Mineral Springs Sanitarium. If you did, please like, subscribe, share, comment. My name's Skaji. Safe journeys.